Jesus is a love song, a love song. Jesus is a love song, a love song. Hi, everybody, and this is Auntie, and I am here to do my review of the Lifetime movie, The Clark Sisters. If this is your first time being here, please like, comment, and subscribe to my channel. And to all of my new subscribers, thank you all so much for joining the family. And to all of my nieces and nephews who have been with me for the long haul, thank you all so much for your continued support. This is my second tape, my second try at doing a review of this particular movie. This movie has it was difficult for me to do it the first time because I felt like I was holding back. And anybody and everybody that knows me knows it's very hard for me to not be 100% who I am. And I felt like I was compromising what it is that I wanted to say about this movie because I felt like I was in the face of other people. But I'm going to tell you right now, I'm going to go ahead and keep it 100% up on this mofo today, like I always do, minus the cursing. When I watched this movie the first time, I watched it by myself, like 12:30, 1 o'clock in the morning. And so I watched it with really no positive content. I couldn't take anything positive from this particular movie. It was set back, in the 60s and everything, and we watched Dr. Maddie Moss Clark rise to a level of fame via the church and via music, working with her daughters or making her daughters work. I'd always heard of her and I don't remember a lot about her, but I absolutely do remember her daughters. When I watched this movie, there were so many things that I could relate to because I remember admiring them. I remember going to their concerts. I remember when Karen came to a large church in the District of Columbia and talked about her surgery and her near-death experience. I remember all of that. And I think that this was the first time that I realized that truly, Auntie, you are old. I don't care how cute you think you are and how youthful you feel in your heart. This movie has dated you. I closely related to a lot of the things that happened in this movie, and I will not be going step by step, scene by scene. I will be just giving a review of how I truly was affected by watching this movie. I had an opportunity today to watch it with a couple of friends. We all teleconferenced and we watched it together. And during the commercial breaks, we talked about the different things and how we felt about the different scenes that we had watched. And I was glad for that opportunity because it absolutely gave me the opportunity to look at this from not just my perspective, but from other people's perspective. The first thing that I realized that this movie did for me, or it made me realize that as a church or as apostolic Pentecostals, we have come a long way. I am no longer in that faith anymore. I am still a Christian and I still believe in the foundations, but I don't live under that bondage anymore. And I am so grateful and so thankful that I don't. I'm thankful and grateful that the church has moved in another direction, but I don't know how restrictive they are as it relates to women. This movie showed a woman who, despite the setup or the hierarchy that a woman can still be and do exactly what she wants to be and do. You can be and do anything you want to. I remember back in the day when you could not wear makeup in a church. You couldn't put earrings on your ears. Could not wear a red dress like I have on, and let alone a red lip. I remember back in the day coming up in that faith where you were just like straight going to hell if you came up in a church with pants on. I remember having a choir director who was a disciplinarian, but also a friend. When I watched Dr. Clark and the way that she was with the choir, with the church folk, just that little window that we got to see, it reminded me of my former choir director. It reminded me of how much I love and appreciate her. And it reminded me also that while some things needed to change, some things needed to stay the same. She was a disciplinarian. When we came into the choir at 13, 12, 14, 15 years old, you weren't guaranteed a spot on the choir. See, the choir is what you wanted to be on, boo. Like if you had singing ability, like you wanted to be on that choir. But let me tell you something, you earned your position on that choir under my old director. I remember the days when she would yell at us and be like, you need to see my hands if I don't move my hands. I remember the days when you could not come to rehearsal and Bojangle and play around and waste everybody's time. I remember when children sat still and they listened and they did. Now, did we do our little sneaky stuff on the back end? Absolutely. But I remember that we honored those who had rule over us. We honored and we respected them while we was in their face at least. But I'm thankful for all the lessons that I learned under her leadership. And I, as a ex-praise and worship team leader, had those same disciplines. I didn't play. I would get the best out of you if you were willing to go to that level to get the best. Everything that she did for her daughters, or did to her daughters, she did because that was all she knew. That's all she knew. And you know, there's a saying that says, if you know better, you do better. She didn't know any better. All she knew was that from morning, noon, afternoon, evening, and nighttime was her drive and her hunger to be more than what she was, and to give her daughters more than what she had. And did she make mistakes? Absolutely, she made mistakes with her daughters. But I don't believe that it was from a malicious place or a place to break them. However, I do believe that as many elders, bishops, apostles, pastors, evangelists, ministers, they misinterpreted the word and felt like we had to fear God, and they had to put the fear of God in us, that if we didn't do this right and we didn't do that right, we was going to hell, or we weren't giving our all. And that's where the conflict is for me, because you don't have to manipulate me or make me feel like I'm going to hell in a handbasket if I don't do this the way you want me to do it. We are free will. God gives us free will. And for the daughters, if they even thought to think another way, then they weren't being obedient to God. And their intentions in their heart towards God was wrong. And your relationship with God is personal. It's personal. And while I thank them, I think that Dr. Maddie Mars Clark had some of it, some of the truth. Yes, you want to give your gift back to God. You want to give your talent back to God. But how does that show up in the world? How does it show up in the world? And what would you sacrifice in order to do the will of God? And when you do sacrifice, do you believe that there is a ram in a bush? Do you? I watched her in her relationship with her husband, wanting to pursue her career, but yet and still she had married. I don't know if she married because that was the thing to do or she truly loved him. But one thing she did not do, in my opinion, was honor him. If you are the pastor's wife, be the pastor's wife. The pastor is telling her, I need you to be here. Because back in the day, it was unacceptable for you not to be. You can't have your own speaking engagements, singing engagements. You got to conform. But one of the things that I noticed is that they weren't even at the same church. They didn't appear to even be in the same church. And so, of course, there's going to be some conflict there because it appears that y'all are unequally yoked. One of the daughters found a gold record in the drawer. She couldn't even celebrate her accomplishments because she had to stroke his ego as the pastor. And then here you got this man up in here with all these daughters and one son, and you whooping my tail when I don't do what you want me to do. To the point that the other daughters didn't even move when they heard the ruckus and mama being slammed from wall to wall. Popped and bust all upside the head. And you got to cover that up? And the oldest daughter, who wasn't his daughter, because she had two children from another relationship, that daughter went up, tried to get in, came downstairs, called the police. He knocked her upside the head. And the only thing that the mother could do was wrap her arms around her. But she couldn't protect her daughter because she couldn't protect herself. Eventually, she ended up divorcing him. And Jacqueline, moved back in the home. But there was just a whole bunch of mess that was going on in the home. And in the meantime, we're shouting, I love the Lord. I go to church every Sunday, and every time the door opens up, and I pay my tithes and my offering, and I do what I do with the whoop whoop and the boop boop boop. But when I come home, the real me, the true me, the authentic me is not. It just splatters out on the floor as a whole mess. A whole mess. Your house tore up from the floor up. You got daughters who are, angry with one another. There's dissension in the home and in the ranks with the sister. Denise is running around in the streets. Basically, talk about she got her a couple of boyfriends. You got Twinkie, who has no real life of her own and trying to pursue an education and couldn't pursue her education because she had a conflict between being educated and being a servant unto her mother and unto God. You should have to pick. See, when our children come into the world, we're supposed to teach them and train them up in the right ways. But at the end of the day, we have to realize as parents is that our children have a purpose for being here. And the only thing that we can do is guide them. Now, these sisters, they marched to the beat of their mother's drum and they became singers. They did use their gifts. But what if there was something else that God wanted them to do and wanted them to be that was never cultivated in them? We as parents have to learn how to cultivate the gifts that are in our children, to kind of sit back and ask God, as our Father, you tell me what this child is to be, and help me to put my feelings aside, my attitude aside, my opinion aside, my beliefs, my goals, my agendas for this child. You help me put all that to the side so I can guide this child into their purpose and the plan that you have for their lives. But her, all she knew was music. And she knew that her daughters had gifts. And so she cultivated that gift. Do or die. The father, her husband, had made a comment and said, you want them to be like the Jacksons. She said, no, I want them to be better than the Jacksons. That ain't happened. But they did reach some type of level of fame and notoriety. Because I'm going to tell you right now, if I heard that the Clark Sisters was somewhere, I was straight up buying my ticket and I was sitting in the audience and listening and enjoying the sounds that were coming out of their voices. How I admired them growing up as a teenager. Didn't even realize that a lot of us was that close in age, but I admired them. I admired the gift that was in them and the boldness and the tenacity. I admired the unity that I saw on stage. But you know what we see on stage ain't always what it is. Because when we got down and scraped down to the surface with this movie, we saw that there was a lot that was going on between the sisters. Denise wanted to be the big dog in the household. She said she was the first Clark, which she was the first Clark, but that doesn't discount the roles and the responsibilities and the honor that has to be given to the older siblings. That doesn't take that away just because you what? She wanted to live her own life, and daggone it, she did it. But she was disrespectful to her mother. She didn't have to treat her mother the way that she did. However, her mother didn't give her a safe place to land either. She didn't give her a safe place to sit down there and say, Mom, this is not what I want to do. And any time she wanted to have that conversation with her mother, it turned into violence. It turned into her getting smacked in the face. Now, your approach got to be right. But the mother never gave any of them a safe place. Not even Twinkie. Her right hand didn't even give her a safe place. And when our children are wanting to talk to us, we have to learn as parents to give our kids a safe place. A safe place to be who they are and to express. Now, you ain't going to be disrespectful. That right there, you're not going to do that. But you should be given the opportunity to have a safe place to land. And she didn't have that, because back in the day they was right no matter what. And children were to be seen and not to be heard. And we didn't know any better. And so Twinkie walks away from possibly, getting a degree to be the piano player for her mother. But I do believe in looking at Twinkie's life now and looking at her life then, that there was something that was there, maybe a learning disability, or there was some deficit. Well, I don't even want to call it a deficit. I just want to say that there was something wrong with her. And instinctively, the mother knew that it was. And so she kept Twinkie very close to her. But then they end up having a codependent relationship. Twinkie was one of the sisters who was instrumental in writing the songs, creating the music with the mom. And so, of course, they were very close and they worked closely together. When you saw her and you were really introduced, you saw her going back and forth with Twinkie from here to there because she was her piano player. But when they started getting fame and started recording music, Twinkie had the catalog and decided to sell the catalog, her songs, to someone else for a Cadillac. After she had done that, the mother was very angry with her and told her, "I see a woman. You look like a woman from the outside, but you're actually a baby." Twinkie and Denise both had aspirations to do something else. They wanted to get from underneath their mother's control. One took the hard road, and the other one took an easy road. Twinkie decides that she's going to hook up with the first guy who winks his eye at her. And Denise decided, "I'm going to break out of this family chaos and confusion," in her opinion, and just be independent. I'm going to go out and I'm going to have sex. I'm going to be in relationships. I'm going to experience the wild side of life. And she was resented. The sisters resented her for it. And if you're moldable, you're trainable, you can't get mad because somebody else isn't. And Denise did not want to fit in the mold. And because she was not fitting in the mold, she was rejected by the sisters. Now, I'm not saying that some of this she didn't cause herself. I'm not saying that Denise didn't do that, but she was the middle child. She sat there at the table when they were trying to draw up the contract. It was time for them to sign a contract. They had been on the road and they had been singing at convocations and conventions. And Denise had asked her mom, told her mom she had an appointment and asked her if she could watch her two children, who, of course, she had had out of wedlock. I was surprised they didn't put them out to church. But anyway, her mother told her that she had raised her kids. She's going to have to raise her own. And in Denise's opinion, that was a smack in her face, and she felt unsupported. She felt like she had made all these sacrifices for her mother, and her mother couldn't sacrifice for her. But had she had taken the opportunity to really get to know her mom, she would have known better than to ask. I would have never asked her to babysit my children because she had her own goals and desires and dreams and aspirations. And the last thing she wanted to do was to watch her babies, to be held down by anything. A man, a child. In my opinion, and I don't think it was done maliciously. I believe that she, as well as many others in the black church, have manipulated the word for their own benefit sometimes. Just because I don't want to do something or I don't do it the way that you want me to do it doesn't mean I don't hear from God. Doesn't mean that I'm not serving God. It's not what that means. If we both need to get to a destination, if you drive straight and I drive and get there around the corner and take the scenic route, we still get to the same place. We still get to the same place. And she would always tell them, "I want you to do this for God." And the daughter told her, Twinkie told her, "I can't tell the difference whether I'm serving you or God." Then he sat at the table and refused to sign the contract and told her mother that she didn't have any more to give her. that she felt like the mother took care of all of her other children and left her with the scraps of who she was. That was deep. Because Maddie Moss Clark asked her daughter, "Why do you hate me?" It wasn't that she hated her. She didn't hate her. But she needed to be free. She couldn't be up underneath her mother's thumb like that anymore. Like she was done. Done. And like I said, she got rejected. The sisters rejected her because they learned as children to take on their mother's hurt. The last thing that they wanted to do was disappoint their mama. I don't believe that the Clark sisters, when they decided to release this movie, wanted their mother to be seen in a negative light. And I'm thinking that if they, were to see a review that did not portray their mother as the God that they thought that they were, maybe they were rejected. But I am really hoping that they understand that with everybody, there's both good and there's bad. See, Twinkie, although she was obedient to her mother, she was rebelling in the inside. And she was lonely and she was broken. She watched all her sisters, Dorinda, Jackie, and Karen, have husbands, move on, to have children and husbands. And here she was with nothing but a piano. And Denise had already warned her. You got boyfriends, this schoolwork, that piano, that music, that this, that. And so when the first man came sniffing up underneath her, she went with him to the extent that she moved to another state and allowed this mofo to knock her mother down. Now here it is, you with this mofo, he don't even have a job. He got a stiff you know what and a good game. And you abandon everything to be with this man who, in return, you end up divorcing because he appeared to be verbally, emotionally abusive. But she wasn't given the skill. She never was given the skill to be on her own. Everything was handed to her or done for. So when she sold her rights to her music, her catalog of music, for a car, the first thing she said was, "I deserve to have something of my own. I deserve to have it." And instead of her mother, I know she was angry, saying, "Baby, it's okay." She hung her to the cross, boo. She hung her to the cross. And even when she decided to have some independence to move with this man whom she believed loved her at the time, the mother said, "You just shot an arrow through her heart." How harsh. She's not the backbone of the family. She's not the matriarch of the family. You are. You got to take some responsibility. You got to let these people go. Twinkie was so close to her mother that when Twinkie left to be with this man, her mother went downhill fast. She mourned her daughter. When she was leaving out of the house, she did not, they were going back and forth and yanking and pulling, and mother was like, "Don't leave me." She said, "Why you want me to stay here, Mom?" She said, "Because you needed me." And Twinkie said, "And you need me." She said, you got to do this for the Lord." She said, "I don't even know the difference of whether or not I'm doing it for him or if I'm serving you." We have a duty and a responsibility. We have a duty and a responsibility to be truthful with our children. Truly, we do. And I don't believe that Dr. Clark was honest with her children at all. To the extent that the sisters are now at war with one another. They ain't loving each other like they should. Denise is, on one platform saying something about the sisters, and the sisters are trying to act like it doesn't even exist. We ain't stupid, dumb, and we're not stupid. Does that mean that you can't serve God? No, it doesn't. I know there are a lot of people who use the scripture, how can you love God whom you've never seen when you can't love the person that you see every day? Sit down with that. Let's talk about the truth of the matter. Jesus said if you go into a town, excuse me, and them folk don't receive you, you brush the dust up off your feet and you keep it pushing. We don't know whether or not they've tried to fix this relationship with this woman or not. And just because I don't bunk with you, don't mean I don't love God. Don't mean I can't lift my hand. It don't mean that you're going to be able to sit me and put me in a seat of judgment because of that. Oh, man. So I've heard some of the reviews where people have said stuff like that. I'm like, that's foolishness. Because there are going to be folk that you're going to have to cut off. There are going to be folk that are going to be stumbling blocks in your life. And then there are going to be people in your life who are going to help you step up your game. You got to know the difference. You got to know when you are sowing your seed on ground that is not fertile and that is not going to produce fruit. Because at the end of the day, the word says that I know the tree by the fruit that it bears. And don't cast your pearls among the swine. So if the sisters, if they couldn't get along, because truly, Denise came to the funeral when Miss Morse Clark died, honey, and showed her natural born tail, marching 7 boys down the aisle. Now, she finally found somebody to marry her, but it seems like most of the kids that she had was out of wedlock. I don't know when she had them. I ain't got no, I can't fuss with her, and I ain't got no seat to sit in judgment, because guess what? My daughter was. And as far as I'm concerned, any child that comes into this world, honey, is legitimate. They legitimately here, y'all. And you legitimately gonna take care of them. I don't know where we come off with that illegitimate. But like, what the fuck is that? Trying to keep it cute. There's so many things that I could say and so many dialogues that I could go into, and I could go down, and run it with the best of them. But I would like you all to draw your own conclusion. And on my other channel, I am going to be opening up a StreamYard so that we can have a conversation about this particular movie, because I really do want to speak about what we as women have overcome. When Dr. Clark's daughters became successful and they were asked to perform at the Grammys, and they were Grammy nominated, she wanted to spend that time and share that stage with her daughters, and she did, very well earned. But when she came back, the men of the church, the bishops that sit up in high places, told her she had to make a decision or she was going to be excommunicated and sat down from her position. That she would be, the only way that she could keep her position is to not sing with her daughters anymore. There was a concert that the daughters were in shortly thereafter, and she did not tell her daughters what she had sacrificed, but she had made her decision that she was choosing the church and choosing her position at the church over everything else. Let me tell you something. There's so many people who are walking around, including myself, who have been hurt by the church. With the church trying to tell you who and what you can be and what you can't be and what you can't do. How you gonna move and how you not gonna move. I got power and authority over you, and I'm gonna tell you what you gonna do. How's that working out? I could tell you some horror stories about the last church that I went to. Horror stories. But I won't because I'm free. I am completely free. But there are a lot of people who are still walking around with church hurts, feeling as if they have to follow the law or follow their laws to the letter when they ain't following them themselves. Come on now, sit down. And you gonna sit up there and tell me I can't sing with my daughters? Why? Where is that in the word? We take the scriptures, some people take the scriptures and they manipulate them and twist them and destroy other people's lives. But didn't she do the same thing with her daughters in some way? And that's not to say that she was being malicious. I truly believe that she only did what she knew. She told her daughter Jackie right before she passed away that she was a hard woman, that she pushes and pushes and pushes and pushes, and then she pushed more and she pushes more. So all she knew. But I do believe that when she lost her beloved Twinkie, it took both of them. They grieved for one another. They both never recovered. When a Dr. Clark passed away, it doesn't appear that she was able to make it back before her mother passed away. And she had a nervous breakdown. She felt like she had abandoned her mother. But she had a right to live her life. But she never was told that. The other sisters conformed, and if that was what was best for them, they conformed, and they wanted this career as gospel singers. God bless them. But we shouldn't condemn the other sisters that didn't. But again, this kind of stuff wasn't nipped in the bud, and I think that the mother, unbeknownst to her, encouraged it. Because when she had a disagreement with the daughter, she should have definitely pulled them to the side. She didn't. Tough movie. Lifetime did an excellent job. I was pleasantly surprised. I think that it is absolutely a work of art. And I thought it was very well played by every actress. They showed up and showed out. The singing was absolutely phenomenal. And again, it took me back to years of growing up in the church. Again, I love and appreciate my old choir director so much. I thank her so much for the discipline that she did. I thank her so much for loving us. And I mean, she loved every one of us. She would sacrifice her life for us. I'm thankful for all the men and women of God who have sacrificed their lives for the gospel and for growing people like myself up in the way of the word. I pray that everybody who has been condemned by the church understands that they did what they did because they didn't know any better. And this is what they were taught. And so they couldn't teach you any better because they didn't know any better. And does that excuse them? No. It just gives you an opportunity to find a place of forgiveness. Because at the end of the day, forgiveness is for you. It ain't for them. It's so that you could be able to walk in the purpose and the place where God wants you to walk, unhindered by hatred and unforgiveness. A lot of people say that unforgiveness is like taking poison and hoping that the other person dies. And I say that unforgiveness is just having just the wrong thought to even think that you could do that. Unforgiveness twists your mind. It causes your mind to look at things in a twisted kind of way. You're almost walking around with glasses on that's like a kaleidoscope. You can't see clearly your vision, the vision of others, the intent of in the heart of other people when you're walking in unforgiveness. It does you no good. None. And if you want to get off that crazy train, and you want to get off that wheel that's just constantly going back and forth, you've got to jump off. And you know what? Walk in a place of forgiveness. You ain't got to like them. You ain't got to bunk with them. You ain't even got to close the chapter. You don't want to do any of that. You can just take that whole book and throw it out and rewrite your whole entire life. You can rewrite your life. You are not a product of your environment unless that's where you want to be planted. You don't have to stay in church hurt. And I know that it's a hard thing because I had told my friends today, I said, I really believe there are more people in church hurt than there are people who are actually in the church. A lot of people are walking away from the gospel and turning their back because of church hurt, manipulation, and control. But nobody knows the true purpose of a man but you and the one who has created you. The man who created the transmission knew what the purpose was for. He knew the purpose of that transmission. He knew what it needed to be connected to in order for it to work at its max capacity. He also knew what needed to go, the fluids, the proper fluids that needed to go into it so that it could work at its max capacity. And let me tell you, you are that transmission. God knows what it will take for you to work at your mass capacity and what oils you need, who needs to be oiling you, okay? What spark plugs need to be attached to you, what engine you should be connected to so that you can move into the right direction. First of all, just so you can move. And let me tell you something, boo. You're not going to be able to hook up the wrong engine with the wrong transmission and expect the vehicle to operate correctly. So if there are people that you need to cut off, cut them off. Cut them off. And if there are people that you need to connect to or be reconnected to, do that too. This movie will give you an opportunity to look at the world and some of the mistakes that the church have made and set you into a place where you can just it set me in a place where I can really look back at people and say, you know what, they ain't know no better. I forgive them Negroes. I forgive them. They didn't know what was in me, and they didn't know how to cultivate it. So because you didn't know how to cultivate it, you controlled it, or you tried to control it. But you can't stop a person that got a purpose. You can't stop the purpose. The only person that can stop your purpose is you. And you stop your purpose through getting off the path and walking in unforgiveness. Move on. Brush that stuff up off your shoulder, boo. Do you. The other sisters were able to move on and they were able to prosper. The other two sisters don't know what's going on with them. I believe that Denise is moving in her own lane. She has 7 sons who are grown children. And I believe that she's an apostle of some kind. It seems like they all are doing very well for themselves. Good. Good. And we thank them for the example, and I thank them for the opportunity to open up an avenue in which we can talk about some things that are a bit difficult to talk about. This was very hard for me to do. I still feel like I'm just like all over the place. But I know that there's a purpose in me, and I know there was a reason for me to look at it, and I know there was a reason for me to look at it with my friends. And no, I did not do, it's scene by scene. And no, there are a lot of things that I could have talked about that I didn't talk about. But I just wanted to make sure that whatever I said to you, that it was inspired by God, not inspired by a click or a view, or inspired by me trying to kiss somebody's butt, or conform to what people believe that I should do or how I should handle this. Guess what? At the end of the day, I'm going to do me and I'm going to do him too. So it may not be a typical review that you expect. But for those people who have come here, I'm hoping that you get an opportunity to grab what it is that you need. It's okay to forgive people. Because at the end of the day, she was proud of her daughters, and she came to a place where she realized she was wrong. And everybody is going to come to a place where they're going to have to meet up with their maker, whoever you believe that to be. And you're going to have to reconcile some stuff in your life. You going to have to... you going to have a aha moment. Everybody gonna have them. And even all of us who have been, hurt or affected or whatever, there's some things we gotta reconcile in our lives. There really are. There's some people that we've wronged. And if we want forgiveness, then guess what? We gotta give it too. It's a give and take. Everything is a give and take. When I was talking to my friends and we were talking and we were just being really transparent. And when you get to be a certain age, you are transparent. You get this freedom, like you be like, yeah, I'm at this certain age, I'm gonna do what I want to do. Cause see, you done already played the games, you done played politics, you done kissed the butt, you done compromised, you done did this, and then I was also talking about where Twinkie had came to a place where she was in that land of I never, when you say I never would do that. And she had to come to a place where she had watched all her sisters be married and, the success that they had. When here she was, lonely, submissive, subservient to her mom and to the ministry. I'm feeling probably like, I missed out on things. And so she just went with the first guy that showed her some attention. And unfortunately, she ended up marrying her father. He who forgets the past will soon relive it. And she forgot about that because she just wanted what all of her sisters had. But have you ever had a moment in your life where you said, I never would do that, and you end up doing what you said that you never would? Have you ever had that aha moment, or that particular thing that you've done that you can't admit to anybody that you did it, and that you got the shame and you got guilt on you, to the point, not to the point where you're going to break down and have a nervous breakdown like she did, but it's just worrying on you, and you know that you didn't have an opportunity to get it right, and you know that some of it is so shameful you never would tell anybody. You won't even speak it. You're going to go to your grave. Forgive yourself. Forgive yourself. Don't you walk around another day with shame and guilt on you for something that you said. I never would do that, but you did it. So what? We all got our dirt. Everybody has sinned and fall short of the glory of the... Okay? Everybody. Ain't nobody on this earth perfect. Forgive yourself. And again, brush it off and keep on moving. Because you know what? The Bible says that God's grace and his mercy is renewed every day. Walk in it. You ain't walking. You will never ever walk into April the 13th of 2020 again. His grace is renewed, and April 14th is right around the corner. And after you walk in that day, you'll never walk in that again. So that the mercies and the grace is renewed for that day. Again, thank you so much to all of the wonderful women who worked on this. I believe it was Queen Latifah and Mary J. Blige. Bravo, sisters. What a great job you did. This captured the essence of the Black church back in the day. It really did. And I'm looking forward to watching more movies that these sisters put together. I pray that the sisters will continue in this success, whether or not they be solo artists or not. And I pray that the sisters who are separated will be in peace. Thank you all so much for coming to my channel. I know it's preachy, but you know what? I hope it reachy. I love you all so much. Have a wonderful day. Please stay safe. Love you.